An extremely tense final after such a contentious tournament. More than 5 weeks of the World Cup have seen political meddling, immigration bans, a smog scare, and some spectacular football. You'd have to agree, Oliver, yeah?
It was definitely a final, worth watching it, yes.
Definitely. Well, we are going to bring you up to date on all the contention, all the spectacular football as well. But I also want to know what you think. Send me your questions and comments. 3 host nations that don't always get along, the US, Mexico and Canada, a war between 2 of the competing nations, the US and Iran, sides like Cape Verde, Norway and Egypt advancing well into the tournament, making fans extremely proud, until finally Spain lifted the trophy. Let's go straight over to our correspondent, Nicole Rees. I bet there's a big party going on in Spain right now.
The mood here is really, it's fantastic, to be honest. This was a nail-biting party with a goal that was withdrawn. Everybody here was really losing their faith. It was a very tough match. I mean, Spain was really trying its best and really trying to kick that goal.
Oh no, we've lost Nicole. The party's too good, I think. Connection problems. Everyone is probably SMSing each other and calling each other, trying to work out where to meet up at this big party. I mean, it's a big one for Spain, an important one for Spain. But let me introduce Oliver Knack, our sports journalist and DW reporter and professional player. Dania Barcelona, who's in New York City, at what could also be a party. We'll get to her in a moment. Oliver, first of all, I want to get your thoughts on tonight.
I think the right team won. For sure, the right team won. It was not an epic game. It was not a spectacular game. Argentina was begging to make it into extra time. They were begging to make it to the penalty shootout. And I'm glad for the game of football that they didn't make it into extra time and that Spain won.
Let me just have a look at the 2 sides for a second. A lot of us were expecting something spectacular. I mean, Spain won the 2010 World Cup, Argentina 2022. And we're talking about 2 giants of football. Both deserved to be there. Spain with the European Championship 2 summers ago. Argentina, the Copa America, with pretty much the same teams. Both are Spanish-speaking, of course. Otherwise, the 2 sides couldn't be more different. Would you agree?
Definitely. Spain tried really to play forward, to score a goal, whereas Argentina was very, very destructive in a way. And they just tried to slow down the game, get the ball somehow to Messi, but I didn't really see much of Messi. And to have that maybe one deciding moment, but that never came.
Dania, can you hear me? Can you chime in for a second? Who were the fans in New York cheering for? I saw a lot of blue and white at Times Square.
Yeah, I would have to say definitely we have seen many more Argentina fans than Spain fans. And in Times Square, it was absolutely taken over yesterday by the Argentina fans. And just now, you know, walking around the streets, we've seen a lot of dejected Argentina fans, people that are pretty sad. But actually, there are a few Spain fans, and later on, Times Square will probably be full of them. The vibe is pretty great in New York City right now, except for if you're an Argentina fan, that's for sure.
And what about your vibe? What was your take on the game?
Well, I have to actually agree with Oliver in that this game was it was a clash of 2 completely different footballing philosophies. Spain, so good as a collective unit. We saw throughout the entire tournament, they played well, they possessed the ball, they played football how fans love to see football played. Argentina, I mean, the stats speak for themselves. They didn't register a shot on goal in the 90 minutes. It was Spain who were calm under pressure. They played their game, they possessed, they saw that they could push players forward because Argentina was sitting further and further back, and ultimately the result was it was the right result, and Spain well deserved the victory. And it's a reward for, you know, the philosophy they've built over many years, their style of play, and it's good to see it win because, like Oliver said, I think football did win today.
So it ended up being a clear-cut win. But what about the air being clear enough? I mean, all that smoke from forest fires was causing concern.
Yeah, it was definitely causing some concern over the past couple days. Like 2 days ago, you couldn't see anything. There's buildings behind me that you can see. 2 days ago, you couldn't see anything. Smoke was very, very heavy. But yesterday, we got a torrential downpour here, and they called it dirty rain. And that actually served to clean the air a little bit. So right now, you can see it's pretty clear. It's not as bad. You can still kind of feel that something's a little bit off in the air. Even as I'm talking to you, my mouth feels a little bit dry, let's say. But FIFA had monitored the situation closely. There was no concern for the game, and that's why it was allowed to go forward. And thankfully, the air quality didn't have any effect on the game.
Okay, guys, let me know if I can go back over to Nicole in Spain, of course, if we get that line back up. But in the meantime, let's talk about the highlights of the tournament with Dania and Oliver. Oliver, your highlights, first of all?
The way Argentina came back against England. They deserve to be in the final, that's for sure, because England was up 1-0 and then Argentina was pressing and they deserved to win that game. That was fantastic to see. Even though I really didn't understand England, that they crawled back to their own penalty box and were praying that it somehow the final whistle will come, but it never came in time for England. And that I really enjoyed those last 10-15 minutes.
And we do now have Nicole in Spain. Bring us up to date on that big party. I can hardly hear you. You can probably hardly hear me.
I hope it's my turn now because it's very, very loud here. As you can see, the crowds are celebrating. It's going to be a very long night here in Spain. And my take really is one team came for the win and the other one was just hanging in there. We saw that from the first halftime into the second halftime. Spain really trying to score that goal. Argentina pushing back at times a bit aggressively. And then that one goal that got taken back by the referee, that was really drama over here. People couldn't believe that due to a foul, this goal was withdrawn. But then finally, Ferran Torres got this championship going, really. They're campeones now. Tomorrow the selection, the team is coming back. They're going to celebrate through the night in Madrid. And this is being seen as a huge success of the trainer, Luis de la Fuente, as well, who has shaped up this team so well. I mean, we've seen them win also the Euro Cup a few years ago. I also reported on that and also reported on Argentina winning last time around the World Cup. So it's refreshing to see that somebody else can actually win. It's the second time for Spain. You hear it?
Yeah.
You just get out of my way. It's beautiful. It's very small streets in this smallest city in the north of Spain, in Pontevedra. People are really over the moon, really. Tears, joy, children dancing in front of me right now, to be honest. And this is a whole roller coaster for the country, I think. They really believed in their team. They really believed they can get it. But it was very difficult to play against Argentina, that's for sure.
We were just looking at the reaction of the fans when that goal came. I'll leave you to party, Nicole. Have a nice night. Dania, I just want to come back to you and find out what your highlights or highlight of the tournament was.
I mean, as a football player, former professional, I have to say my highlight of the tournament is seeing a team like Spain, the way they play, go all the way and win the trophy. Because so often in football we hear criticisms of, you know, Pep Guardiola or how the way Spain had played this possession-based system where they wear teams down. And a lot of people say it's not effective. They possess the ball, but are they scoring? And there's a lot of focus on trying to maybe get the result with football that's not as nice. And sometimes it works. And a lot of times it works. And so for me, I mean, Spain has really instilled this identity for their team. This is how Spain plays. The women's team, the men's team, the youth teams. De La Fuente, he was a coach in the youth setup for Spain. So to see that they've, you know, committed, they know who they are, they're a collective unit. Yes, they have very good players, but they don't rely heavily on those players and those players alone. So for me, as a football player and a football fan, to see that Spain, they won the tournament, it's my highlight of the tournament, let's say.
Okay, Dania, stay where you are because I'm going to get back to you about the controversies in a moment. And if you're following us on the live stream, then send me your questions or comments because this tournament has been packed full of controversies, the biggest one being that red card, Oliver. Tell me, about the red card. Tell me about the significance of that. I mean, so many people were coming up to me saying, what is going on? Fans were just flabbergasted that a president could allegedly call the boss of FIFA and get a decision reversed.
Well, the president even admitted that he called Gianni Infantino.
I don't need to use the word allegedly, do I?
And that makes it even worse, in my opinion. It was not even played somewhere in the backyard or in the room
All in the air, open.
behind the scene. He publicly said, yeah, I called him and I wanted that they take another look at it. It completely went against all rules that have been established for decades. And that I'm just happy that they lost the next game.
I mean, that's the consolation prize, but what about fans? I mean, Dania, the trust of football fans in FIFA?
Oh, I mean, we have been all around US, Canada, and Mexico, and there are so many fans that we've talked to that have said FIFA's corrupt, this is a joke. They were questioning, Infantino's relationship with Donald Trump. Is FIFA politically neutral? A lot of fans really disillusioned with FIFA, and that kind of seeps into fans being disillusioned with the game of football in general, because they say, okay, if Donald Trump can call Infantino and they can reverse a decision, then what else is possible? Moving forward, what else is possible? How far can this go? So a lot of fans that we talked to, the overwhelming sentiment was just really a disappointment and now a big distrust in FIFA. That was already there to begin with, but now it's way worse.
Absolutely right. And that's why I'm so happy that Spain won. Because if Argentina would have won this game by penalty shootout, by some weird decisions, then everybody would say, yeah, of course, because they were doing the work in the background. It was all set up by Trump and Infantino anyways, and Argentina was their favorite, so Argentina wins. I'm so glad that this did not happen.
That it was a clear-cut decision, not clear-cut decision, clear-cut result.
Right.
And that no one could sort of say, oh, this is rigged.
Right.
I mean, because every time something does go wrong, or there is a strange decision made, or there's even a playback, and there's still denial of what everyone thinks is should be the right decision, people say this is rigged. People say there's money involved. People say there's corruption.
And that's why there was so much pressure on the referee. Everybody was watching the referee. Will he get the game right? Will he make small mistakes? Will he make big mistakes? And I think he did it. Considering the pressure, he did a good game, a very good game. One key personally to me, one key to this game was that the Paredes came on for the second half, and he got a yellow card after 7 minutes. That completely changed the Argentinian defensive game, because now they had to be really careful that he wouldn't get sent off with his next foul. And that was definitely the right decision. That way, the referee showed that he's in control of the game.
Dania, what about the security operation? I mean, it was a huge operation. We had 3 countries involved, a lot of logistics, fans moving around, some fans who weren't allowed into the country, others complaining that the ticket prices just were way too high. Were there people complaining to you about that as well?
Yeah, so during the tournament, we talked to a lot of fans about a lot of different things. Ticket prices, number one, absolutely ridiculous. A lot of people said, I would have loved to go to the stadium, but I cannot afford to spend $2,000, $3,000. Just today, the last minute tickets that were supposed to be, going down in price were like $10,000 to go to the stadium. So a lot of people really upset with how much the tickets cost, but also how difficult it was to travel between cities here in North America, because we don't have low-cost airlines like there are in Europe, for example. So everything incredibly expensive. The cost of food, this is something we heard a lot. Just the overall cost about how much people have spent to be here and how much they had to spend. A lot of people were priced out of the tournament, which in North America is kind of normal because sporting events are far more expensive than they are in Europe. But people, told us they had to change their job to be able to afford tickets to come to the World Cup, because for many people around the world, it might be hard for people in North America to understand, but for many people in Europe, in South America, and Africa, football is their life. They think about football 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's people sold their belongings, their cars, just to come here, and for them to, some people didn't even get into the country. That was difficult. It was really, that was a big complaint that we heard, especially the prices, number one, the biggest complaint that we heard across the board in every city we went to.
Wow, crazy. That really brings it home to me, someone who has to give up so much for something they love.
And you could tell by the atmosphere in the stadium, there was not a real football atmosphere in there. Because...
What do you mean by that?
It was not the chanting, the singing, what we're used to in football stadiums all over Europe. Because the real fans were not there. Because they couldn't afford it. And that's why the atmosphere, it didn't really come across. There were people who could afford to go to the game, but those are not the fans that are responsible for a good atmosphere.
What about New Yorkers, Tanya? Were they there? New Mayor Mamdani said that there was a quota of affordable tickets for residents and set up public viewing areas.
Yeah, so of course New York is massive. Manhattan's a very big city, right? So it's kind of funny. Certain places you go in the city, you wouldn't even know that the World Cup is even on. But then other places are absolutely full because they've set up fan viewing areas and big screens and events around the World Cup. So there is a lot of interest. There's a lot of interest because also there are very many and very large diaspora communities, especially here in New York. For example, we watched the game a couple of the games in Queens with the Moroccan fans or the Colombian fans. And there's a lot of people that really, really love football in this country, in this city. And I think, a lot of them couldn't afford to go to the games. But that doesn't mean that they couldn't live the World Cup spirit and the World Cup feeling here in the city. And actually, in a lot of times, I was in the stadium also, and I had a lot more fun sometimes with some of these communities, watching the game with them, because, like Oliver said, also the real fans that couldn't afford to go, that were the ones who would have brought the vibes, they were in the streets, and it was actually pretty amazing to see. So it's a kind of different perspective, because I was at the World Cup in Qatar 4 years ago, and the stadium atmosphere was a lot better, let's say, in certain situations than it was here. So it's a big contrast, but in its own way, it was a special World Cup, and there was still a lot of fantastic atmosphere here in New York, especially.
Tanya Barcelona, I'll let you go. Thank you very much for chiming in. It's been great to get your analysis and all those anecdotes. Have a good one. And let's bring in entertainment journalist KJ Matthews now, who's in Los Angeles, talking about entertainment, KJ. We were just talking about all the contentious stuff of this World Cup, of fans complaining that they couldn't get into the country. What would you say this World Cup has done for the sport?
Oh, it has done an enormous amount for the sport and for FIFA. Let me tell you, right now, they're saying that what we call American football, which is different from your football, but soccer is what we call it here, is probably now our third favorite sport. It used to be NFL football, which is American football, basketball, and then baseball. And they're saying that now soccer has surpassed baseball, and that 2 in 10 Americans bought some sort of World Cup merchandise. Can you believe that? 2 in 10. We've just fallen in love with it. There have been 11 venues here where these matches have happened all throughout the United States. And Fox is the network that's putting it on, is saying that they've had record-breaking viewership on every single match, particularly when Americans were playing, obviously. But we have just fallen in love with soccer. We've fallen in love with all the players. Even when the United States was kicked out, we were following Holland because we loved, Erling Haaland, we love watching him. And then we start falling in love with France. They had Mbappe. And then we said, okay, if France can't be in it, we'll root for Spain. And Spain ended up winning it. So I've just fallen in love with it. I feel like I'm a newbie because even though I've been in love with American football, I've been in love with basketball, and I'm used to having the worlds of entertainment mixed with the world of sports and having these large Super Bowl halftime things, I've never really gotten into soccer the way I have this time. And I've fallen in love with it. Also, being in Los Angeles, there's a large percentage of people that are very much into soccer, mainly a lot of Hispanic cultures and mainly a lot of Mexican Americans. And we have the largest contingencies of Mexican Americans here in Los Angeles County. So it's just been receptive. People love it. All of the local news stations have been, giving us play by play. It's great. And I just love to see the enthusiasm and people going out and watching it and having huge watch parties, not only in LA County, but surrounding counties as well.
Well, KJ, we're just looking at the enthusiasm of the Spain fans there in New Jersey. Yep, they're celebrating all right. I'm glad to hear that you're liking your soccer. I mean, I played it for 13 years and loved it as well. It's a fantastic sport to watch. The strategy's amazing. Oliver, what I can't believe, because I'm also a baseball fan, I mean, how on earth could Americans be dumping baseball for soccer?
Well,
that's what I'm hearing. They're looking at the numbers. They're saying, look, we're comparing the World Series in baseball and the numbers that they get in terms of people watching it on television or watching it online. And they're saying these numbers are surpassing it. I think a lot of it has to do with social media, too. Everybody's falling in love with all these players. We feel like we're all connected. If you're not on Instagram or X or Theory or any of these other platforms, watching every single minute of the game and all these players' lives. And we've just fallen in love with it. And it could be, too, it's been over 30 years since America's had the World Cup happen here. So a lot has happened since then. You know what I mean? And we are just different people. We have social media. And so you can really fall in love with it in a different way. And we really have.
Well, I think if you compare the World Series to the final of the World Cup, I think it also depends which team actually make it to the World Series. If it's like Houston or if it's Toronto and not the Yankees against the Dodgers, then probably not too many people are watching it. And now the big question is whether the enthusiasm that you have now for soccer, will it actually transfer into the normal, regular Major League Soccer season? And how it will develop in the next 3, 4, 5, or 10 years.
KJ, I was also just... Yeah?
Go ahead.
What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say it'll be interesting to look at the ratings. I always look at the ratings, even when it's not here in the next couple of times that they have the World Cup. I want to look at how many people were watching. That's what you always know. Look at the online ratings and viewership and also the television ratings. And that'll tell you if that number stays the same or even goes up, soccer's here to stay. We love it.
Okay, we're just looking at live pics from Spain. Tell me a bit more about not just the success with fans, KJ, but the costs of putting on this huge show. It must have been a logistical nightmare. We were talking about that with Danya earlier. Would you call it a commercial success?
Oh, it is, because FIFA had one goal, and they wanted to turn the World Cup from the largest sporting event into the largest hybrid event, meaning that they wanted to combine a global entertainment with a World Cup sporting event, and they successfully did it. And you know how they did it? They were able to lean on the people who successfully put together a Super Bowl halftime show every single year. I am told that some of the members of that team help put this together. They know how to logistically make it happen in 30 minutes or less because they've been doing it for years and years and years. So they leaned on that team. And I don't know if you noticed, but every single performance from Madonna to Justin Bieber to Shakira, and even I think it was Burna Boy performing with Shakira, all of them came in their performances under 3 minutes. To the knot. I counted. It was like Justin Bieber was 2.5 members.
They all behaved.
Then you had Madonna. She was 2 minutes. So everybody stayed on time and they were able to do it. The entire halftime performance shows really were only about 15 minutes, if you can believe that. And they had all of those people performing, but they managed to do it.
the halftime show was around about 15 minutes, that's true. But you know how long normally a break in a soccer game is? It's 15 minutes.
Yes.
And with the building up, the stages and everything, it was almost 25 minutes of the break they had.
Yes.
And that's not football, that's not soccer, sorry to say.
That's what I hear.
But that's just not how it's viewed, and that's why people don't like the way it was presented, because they were bending the rules for that.
Right. You know, the funny thing is, it depends on who you're asking. If you ask Americans, we say it's much ado about nothing. We are used to having 30 minutes or longer, possibly, for a halftime show. That's normal. We mix entertainment with our sports. It's always been that way. So we don't know any other way. And then to learn that FIFA actually bent the rules and said, okay, this halftime break is going to go to 30 minutes. We weren't even aware of that. We thought that was always the case. And so I know a lot of people, Brits and Europeans, were saying they're bending the rules. We're not used to this. We don't like this. We don't need a halftime show. We've never had it. But look, it brings more eyeballs. People who normally may not be watching soccer around the world, may not be interested, will now be interested because you brought in that entertainment element. Will now be interested because they see the celebrities there. You had actor Will Ferrell. You had actor Timothy Chalamet. You had Jason Sudeikis. You had Tom Cruise show up. And basically, he acted like a hype man to get everybody pumped up and remind him that we're all unified. That type of stuff brings in more eyeballs, and more eyeballs will translate to more money, and FIFA always loves that.
Of course, I get your point. But I'm romantic about football. Yeah, that's and the real fans are romantic about football. And you just don't want to see a 25-minute break in between those two half times. And the players don't like that either. They want to have 12, 13 minutes, and then they want to go back out on the pitch and don't sit around for 25 minutes.
KJ.
But you know what?
Yeah.
Argentina may be upset about that, and Messi may be saying that's why we lost.
No.
We had too long of a break. You never know.
KJ, you're talking about this huge commercial success for FIFA. Why then were the ticket prices so insanely expensive?
Now, I will agree with you on that. But you know what? I've always been complaining. When it comes to the Super Bowl here, I've never been able to actually go to a Super Bowl. I've covered one. I've covered a Super Bowl as a journalist and been able to go inside to cover it and do interviews. But I've never been able to afford to just purchase a ticket. It's always been out of the price range. Here in America, the only people that are going are celebrities that are getting in for free, or you've got your executives that can pay the money, or people that have been invited. But it's very hard. And most of the people that are normal people, when you talk to them, they'll tell you, well, yeah, we have to take out a loan, or, you know, we spent money that we didn't really have because we were paying thousands and thousands of dollars. I think it's wrong. I wish there were more affordable tickets. But guess what? We live in a society that's all about the money. And so I don't think you're going to see those tickets come down anytime soon, whether it is the World Cup or the Super Bowl or the NBA Finals. Those high-priced tickets are here to stay. What I do think they should do is maybe have a larger percentage of affordable tickets. I hear a lot of people saying, well, they have a certain small amount of tickets that are set aside that are more affordable. They're not enough. I think that they need to increase the number of affordable tickets, even though I know that the majority are still going to be out of the price range of most people in this world.
Absolutely, same. I have the same opinion about that. You must have cheaper tickets, and I'm quite sure that the next World Cup you will see a lot more cheaper tickets. Of course, all the events that are hosted in the United States, whether it's the World Series in baseball, the NFL, Super Bowl, they try to make as much money as possible. Well, that's the way it is. But hopefully prices will go down at the next World Cup in 4 years for the fans, so that you have more of the real fans in there and you have a better atmosphere as well. I mean, you can go to a baseball game and sit on the bleachers for still, even in Yankee Stadium, for 40 or 50 bucks. Yeah.
Yeah, you might be in the nosebleed. You might be in the nosebleed sections, though. You might be way up there in the back, and you have to have your binoculars to see. But you will be there.
Right.
At least you can soak in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Right,
KJ,
right, for sure.
Thanks so much for chiming in. It's been great getting your take on this huge event, huge money-making event, as people here. And, yeah, let's hope for cheaper tickets next time.
Yes, for sure. I'm fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, all right. So what are some of the other controversies from this tournament that we should be pointing out to viewers? Because, you know, some people have been writing in congrats to Spain, I see. Football won today. Someone else has written here, racist football lost. I'm not sure what exactly they mean by that, but tell us what you think.
I think we had, like everybody's saying, we had the right winner, the right results, a lot of controversies. In the end, I think we had a great host nation. There were three great host nations, but I'm quite sure that a lot of football fans are very happy to see the World Cup hosted somewhere else in 4 years and get back to the real fans, to the base, at least to some extent. Because, like we said earlier, it's just too much and fans cannot really afford it.
We're just watching some of the highlights from the game there. Tell me about, I found it interesting that these two sides have such different philosophies and have such different playing styles. Why is that?
Because, of course, Argentina heavily depends on Messi, and he's 39 years old. He's, of course, not the same Messi as 4 or 8 or 12 years ago. But he's still a player who can decide a game if it's a close game. And that's what I and maybe a lot of other people were kind of afraid of. The longer the game went on, I was like, hopefully he doesn't get that one chance in the 88th minute and Argentina scores an undeserved 1-0 victory. So I was kind of happy that the game went into extra time and in the end Spain won it more than deserved.
Oliver, let's bring in our Washington correspondent, Benjamin Alvarez-Gruber. He's been watching the game and covering US affairs for us for years now. Benjamin, what did you think of the game, first of all?
It was an incredible game. I was watching at a watch party just a couple of streets away from our studio, mostly Spain fans, and of course waiting until that last minute, until there was so many chances. Then when they had the goal, there were also some Argentinian fans that were quite friendly, so they were included in the celebration afterwards. But yeah, a huge success, and it was really a nail-biter until the end, this World Cup final against Argentina.
Well, I'm glad you dragged yourself away from the party and made it into the studio for us. Tell us, how do you rate US President Donald Trump's involvement in the World Cup?
I think for many it was quite surprising after this final draw that we all remember back in December when he got this FIFA Peace Prize. We all remember those images of him putting the medal around his neck when many were asking, okay, is it actually 3 countries hosting this World Cup? Is it just the United States? When we had briefly Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, both of who were also in the stadium today. But looking back to them, many were wondering if President Trump would be really active and pushing and being visible once this tournament started. And many were wondering if he would actually attend games of the U.S. men's team. He did not attend those in the group phase. Many were wondering if there might be other games where he might get involved. But of course, that changed when he had that phone call with FIFA President Gianni Infantino to ask for this review of the red card. I was just watching before coming into the studio these images filmed in the stadium of President Trump and FIFA President Gianni Infantino walking onto the field, being booed heavily by those who are there. Those are the things that you have to see watching the videos of those who were actually there, because in the transmission or it's turned down or there's some music up there, it's not quite clear if they booed one or if they booed the other, but it shows how political it is. Not only having President Trump there giving out the medals, but also having Mark Carney, having Claudia Sheinbaum, and even having the King of Spain. So it shows how important it is for him and also how political these World Cups always are.
Yeah, we're just looking at some stills from Trump alongside Melania, the First Lady, at that match. And I just want to point out, one of our viewers on TikTok is complaining that it's football, not soccer. I know we call it soccer in Australia. We try to call it football these days in Australia. the Americans, a lot of the time, also call it soccer. But yeah, we'll all try to agree on football, at least for tonight. Someone else was writing here, and this is a point you made, Oliver. If the players rest too much, it's difficult for them to retake the game, and it's a very good point, isn't it?
That's what you're used to as a football player. When you start playing football at the age of 6 or 10 or whenever, you have a 15-minute break and then you go back out, and that's how
we got our oranges, and then we're back on the pitch.
That's how you are taught by how the game goes. And now, after being a professional for 5, 10 or 20 years, in Messi's case, he has to wait 25 minutes. I guess that mixes up your whole body, and you're just not used to it. You're just sitting there and you're like, hey, come on, let me go out.
Exactly. There's only so long you can stay tense.
Yes.
Tell me a bit more about the fans, Benjamin. What about fans' anger at US travel bans, visa restrictions, concerns about ICE agents?
So there were those concerns, especially with those travel bans on place for fans of several countries. They were only a couple of weeks away from this World Cup, and many had no idea if they would be able to travel, if they would be able to get this visa actually approved to come to the United States to attend those games. And when we talk to people within the administration, there have been a couple of press conferences also by Andrew Giuliani. He's basically the White House's chief executive for this task force. And he always said that the final word is up to the United States on deciding who can come in. I'm sure we'll talk about the case of the Somali referee later. But for the fans, it wasn't clear if they would actually be able to come in. And as you just spoke about, all of those prices, how expensive it is to actually get to the stadiums. For many, being in the country was not as being at the stadium actually cheering on their team. So for many, it was quite the difficult decision on deciding if they would travel into the United States, if they would be able to come in to support the team, so if they would rather stay back home and watch the games there.
And talking about politics, one user's just written, ironically, Trump gave medals to Spaniards, the champions, instead of asking for tariffs. I mean, it doesn't get more ironic than that, I guess. Benjamin, also tell me about the Iranian team. That made quite a few headlines.
True, and as you mentioned at the beginning of this live stream, two countries at war. Since the tournament started, a lot of attacks also. We've been reporting on that over the last couple of weeks. Of course, a lot of pressure on those teams being on the field and actually playing. And what we've heard from White House officials over and over is that the Iranian team decided to play in Mexico, decided to have their base there. But if we look on the other side, if it is so hard, if it's so restricted when they can come into the country, when they can leave. And I don't know if the argument that many within the White House are using, well, we have teams here who also move after a game, before a game, move cross-country if they play on the East Coast and they move back to the West Coast. But it's different here if you have one team who has been complaining heavily, and this goes back to even before the tournament started, on the conditions that they had of how hard it was for them to get the visas, not just for the team, not just for the players, but also for the officials. So the whole team to actually be able to come here to concentrate on the game without needing to think about this logistics, how they would come into the country, when they would be able to leave. So that is something that we've been following throughout this World Cup.
And talking about coming and going or not even getting in at all, the referee who wasn't allowed in. I think he was from Somalia?
Yeah.
Yes, Somalia, a really decorated referee too. I just remember when Infantino said that the public should chill and relax. Those were his words when they asked him about this case. He called it unfortunate, but it's really incredible having a referee really, who is denied entry into the United States. And Andrew Giuliani, who I mentioned there, after one of these press conferences, I walked over to him and asked him, could he actually play in Mexico? Could he work in Mexico? Could he work as a referee in Canada for the games that were there? Of course, a majority of the games were here in the United States, but we also had games in Mexico, games in Canada. And he just said, it's up to the authorities. in both of those countries to decide if they can do it. So that's definitely something that led to a lot of headlines there and heavy criticism on this decision to bar this referee, distinguished referee, from entering and from working here in the US.
Oliver, what do you think? What's the sort of feeling that you get as someone who's commentated on sports for years and is so passionate about football?
I don't get it that they made this obvious mistake. In a way, I do understand that they don't want to let in certain people from certain countries, but we're talking about a referee. We are not talking about a potential terrorist. He's like you said, he's a well-known referee, and they wouldn't let him in because he has the wrong passport. I don't get it. Doesn't make sense to me.
So it's been an extremely political event. Ben, any last words from you on the World Cup and its future in the US?
I was looking at the end when President Trump and Gianni Infantino handed over the cup to the Spanish team, wondering if the same scene would happen as during this club tournament that we had here in the US last year, where he was just standing next to the team so he's basically in all of those pictures. And here it was quite interesting to see because he was moving a little bit to the side. You could see Gianni Infantino telling him, I mean, they're not hiding the close relationship that they have. Also, Gianni Infantino wearing a USA cap and this phone call, of course, with the red card. But he moved a little bit to the side. It shows us that fans could still focus on the game despite of the criticism, despite of many controversies that we've been talking about when it comes to how the Iranian team was treated, the ticket prices, the red card that will also lead to criticism, further criticism, the hydration breaks. I don't know if you've spoken about that, what that actually means also, this commercial breaks for this dynamic of the game too. But it's very fascinating to see so many people getting involved in this game, following the game, especially in the host countries where they were hosting those teams. There were so many beautiful stories of people hosting other teams, and there were basically fans of those teams without speaking the language. So it shows this, despite all of this criticism that might have on FIFA as an organization, of governments getting involved, of host countries, it shows how beautiful this sports actually is. And I can imagine that many in this country were rather like, no, I prefer baseball, I prefer other sports, will be closely following and being more involved when it comes to future tournaments. We've had some people saying and voicing that the US should host other World Cups in the future. So I think it was really a remarkable month, that we've seen here in these three countries hosting these tournaments. The big question for many is, what are we supposed to do now that the tournament is over?
Well, most people are going home now. We're just watching live pictures of people leaving the stadium in New Jersey. And Benjamin, I'll let you go. Thank you very much. I'll let you get back to your political reporting in Washington, D.C. Benjamin Alvarez-Gruber for us there. Oliver, one thing that Benjamin just brought up there was the hydration breaks. We haven't talked about that yet. I mean, I laughed when I saw that come up in the game,
right,
in the final. Does that...
It is
no
weird.
Words for it.
Absolutely weird. They came up with it, I think, at the World Cup 4 years ago, for obvious reasons, because you had high temperatures, around 35 to 40 degrees, and then it was up to the referee to give the players a pause for like 1, 2, or 3 minutes. Now we have the hydration break. No matter how cool or how warm it is, whether it's 25 and chilling, you will still have a hydration break. Of course, for commercial reasons.
Yeah,
and of course, that's not what the old traditional football fan likes.
Yeah, so tell me, while we just watch celebrations of the final, what are your last words on this this game tonight, the tournament as a whole, and the future for the World Cup?
I don't think this was a game that will be remembered as a great game. This final, Spain winning against Argentina. It's not a game that we will talk about in 4, 8, or 12 years. one thing we haven't mentioned, the field, the pitch itself was in a terrible condition. The ball was bouncing. They couldn't really play that well. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
I mean, the soccer, the players had to wait 25 minutes, then they go out on the pitch, and it's in a terrible condition. So those little things, they are huge. And I hope for the fans that the next World Cup, well, the last one was in '94, so that's 32 years. So maybe in 32 years we will go back to the United States as a host nation.
Thank you very much. It's been great having you here tonight for our live stream. What do you think? Was the World Cup a success, or are you fed up with FIFA and football? Let us know. I'm Ben Fajzullin. It's been great spending this night with you and great watching the World Cup with you. See you again very soon here on DW. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Oliver.